Hello guys and welcome back to week 4 here of the MMA Flashback podcast. I'm James.
And I'm Livia.
And we're here today to give you the 4th rendition of the MMA Flashback podcast. This week we're going to be going ahead and discussing the UFC Atlantic City card, as well as that we're going to be going into the news, which we missed out on last week. We're going to be going ahead and talking about our flashback card, which this week was Cage Rage 9. And then we're going to be going ahead and giving our fight picks for Bellator 198. Livio, how are you doing?
Not bad. Decent week of MMA to look back on. And look forward to talking about Cage Rage, which was a slightly odd fight card for me. But yeah.
Yeah, it was certainly different, but we'll get into that when we get there. Certainly a little bit backwards,
yes, 100%,
compared
100%.
to now. But yeah, if we're going to go ahead and go into Atlantic City then, the first bit we're going to go ahead and jump into. So we saw UFC Atlantic City this weekend. It was a fight night event, not on Fox, but it was on Fox Sports 1. Got uploaded, so fight night events get uploaded to Fight Pass the day after for UK and Ireland subscribers. So I watched it the day after, if that makes sense. So I didn't watch this one live. But yeah, I very much enjoyed the card. There was a lot of decisions, but I thought the main card was quite nice.
Yeah, 100%. Some big names on the card, and I think the card itself was averaged like a million viewers or something like that, which is really good, especially on Fox Sports 1 instead of the big Fox brand. So UFC doing big things at the moment. Yeah,
not doing too badly. Some of the Fight Pass prelims, well, I say Fight Pass prelims on the UK. Yeah, we get all Fight Pass prelims. So some of the prelims, we saw Sia Bahadraza. He took on Luan Changas, and it was a lovely kick to the body and punches. I predicted last week that Sia would go and get the job done. Obviously, that's not one of our predictions that we could make. But Sia has fought previously in Scotland. I remember because it was specifically on my birthday for the Nelson Ponzinibbio fight, and I was really impressed with him on that day. Really impressed with him again on this one. I thought he did really well. Corey Anderson defeated Patrick Cummins. I think last week I said Patrick Cummins had come out on top.
Yeah.
And he won 30-26 with 2 of the judges. So
wow.
Didn't do too well there. Controversy though. Livia, do you want to talk about that one? A little bit of controversy going on.
Yeah. I didn't watch the entire fight. I watched the slight little highlight at the end. But Merab, I'm going to absolutely wreck the surname. Dashvashli. Got choked out right at the buzzer. So I think the fight buzzer went, and then the ref announced it as being he lost via submission.
But he lost via TKO.
Via TKO?
Yeah. So it's here TKO technical submission, which is really strange.
Okay.
So on his record, he's got a TKO, but he won by submission, and it's the latest stoppage you could possibly get in a 3-round UFC fight. 3 minutes, 5 minutes. 3 rounds, 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's an odd one. So the controversy goes that the bell had gone and it was ruled a stoppage technically after the bell.
But technically, I don't think it should have been stopped. I think he was out.
Yeah.
But you can't rule him the loser because he was out after the fight had finished.
Yes. So that's where it's stemming from. A lot of people are arguing whether if he's out dead on the bell, then you could suggest that it'd be out just before the bell. As in like 4 minutes, 59 seconds and a half.
Like what we saw with Leon Edwards and Paul Craig, where they both got 4-minute 59 wins. But if the ref wouldn't have stopped it when the buzzer went for these fights,
it would have gone to decision. Which
in Paul Craig's case, he would have lost that. And in this case, Merab Dvalishvili won the fight by split decision.
But obviously, because of the controversy, he lost it. Unfortunately for him.
And he's a Matt Serra boy, so the UFC aren't going to be too happy with that.
No. One of the guys that came from, I think we spoke about it last week, from Looking for a Fight.
Yep.
Yeah, so it'll be tough for him to take, tough pill to swallow, obviously, but I'm sure Ricky Simon isn't complaining. I'm sure he'll take the win and the win money any day of the week.
The main event of the prelims, though, we saw Alex Garcia get decisioned by Ryan LaFleur. LaFleur bouncing back, obviously, after that second round knockout loss by Alex Oliveira. He won by 30-27, controlling the fight. Obviously, a lot of people expected Garcia to come into this one, bounce back. Obviously, he won in his last fight, but it was kind of been a bit inconsistent. But yeah, we saw LaFleur come out on top in the welterweight division. But the main card, we kicked off with Dan the Hangman Hooker taking on Jim Miller, and he won by first round knockout.
Yeah, I think we both predicted him to win.
Yeah,
via knockout. I think
I had the first, and you had the third.
I picked something like that.
So
but,
yeah, because we both went for the third, and then I changed last minute.
good
last
change.
Minute.
Good change. He looked really good against Jim Miller, who's not an easy opponent to beat, and looked really solid in there. And obviously got the win, got the finish. Where not much more that you could ask for.
Yeah, I thought he did really well. The finish as well was a clean knee to the skull. It was nasty.
I mean, Dan Hooker showing that he's a real contender at the moment. 155, isn't it?
Yeah, 155. Yeah. Obviously, he's done a Robert Whittaker, and he's jumped up from
145, which is crazy because he's really tall as well. He's like 6'1" or 6 foot, something like that, which is unbelievable.
So the fact that he was down at that weight class,
but he looks really good at 155 at the moment. A good guy in an incredibly stacked division, so it's tough to say that he's going to break in for that title shot at any point soon. But I mean, if he keeps pulling up performances like that, you can't say he's too far away.
And after the fight, calling out Paul Felder whilst being interviewed by Paul Felder.
Awkward situation for Paul Felder.
I really like that though. I thought it was a fun way of calling out your opponent. Just thought it was really enjoyable.
Not? He's there. You get somewhat of an answer on the spot. Obviously, just because they agree to it or disagree to it doesn't mean that the UFC isn't going to make the fight or going to make the fight at some point. But New Zealand's got a couple of good fighters at the moment. Real good fighters, obviously, with Dan Hooker and the last style bender, and obviously Robert Whittaker, who's also Australian, fights out Australia, but you know,
Oceania have got it going good.
They do at the moment, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
The next fight, though, on the main card, we saw Aljamain Sterling taking on Brett Johns. I went with Brett Johns' decision on this one, and I was a little bit disappointed in it.
I picked Aljo decision. I thought Brett Johns did alright. I just felt Aljo was better everywhere.
You could see the class in skill. Maybe you could see the nerves from Brett Johns. Obviously, his first proper Fox big card. Obviously, he had previously fought against Joe Soto on an Ultimate Fighter card. But it doesn't really compare to a proper fight night.
It's big being on the main card against someone like Aljamain, who's a fairly well-known name in MMA.
I mean, he's a top 10 bantamweight.
100%. Not a terrible showing from Brett Johns, but like I said, Aljo's just shown that there's level to this game, and Brett Johns isn't at that level at the moment.
I think the relentless takedowns by Sterling was really good in this fight, and at the same time, I thought his striking, it was very awkward.
And he was never there to be hit. He was really good at hitting and then moving left and right, side to side, and keeping away from Brett Johns' strikes.
I did think at one point though that Johns had it in the bag when he hit him with a flying knee. I thought, damn, Brett Johns is going to win by knockout, but Aljo recovered well and did really well.
Deserved win, to be honest with you. Next fight.
Very surprising.
I don't think either of us had it like this.
I think we both said this, didn't we, when we saw each other the next day?
David Branch versus Thiago Santos. David Branch gets the KO
in 1 round.
Yeah, 2 minutes 30 of round number 1. I think we both had David Branch winning by decision.
Yeah.
So we both had him winning. But surprising by knockout. We thought if a knockout were to come, it would be by Thiago Santos.
Yeah, and David Branch looked really good.
Looked really decent.
He was getting hurt by them leg kicks though.
Yeah.
The fact that he got out there and he probably knew he had to finish early. Obviously, Branch is a veteran of the sport. He probably knew that he was getting hurt by them leg kicks. He was even pointing at them after the fight to his corner, and that he got in there, got the job done. Yeah, man.
I mean, he showed that it wasn't the Luke Rockhold, although it was a loss. The Rockhold fight, he looked good early in that fight, and he was showing that wasn't just Luke Rockhold shaking off cobwebs. It's him being a genuinely good fighter, and showing that just because you're not in the UFC and you're coming in from another organization, doesn't mean that you don't have that class. We've seen it with a couple of guys now, and MMA it's just good for MMA to see these guys come in and perform.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit gutted as well that they're talking about Brad Tavares taking on David Branch now. For his next fight, which I think Branch is a top 10 fighter, but I don't think he should be taking on Brad Tavares next. Personally, I think David Branch should be taking on someone around that 6-5. Sorry, not 6-5. That's just 2 possibilities. 6-3 mark. I think he showed that he can compete in that Rockhold fight, and I say give the man another chance against someone around that area.
Why not? Why not? He's showing that he's a top guy, and I mean, at this point, he's getting on with age, so he's not got many more pushes to the title in him. So let the man see what he can do.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was a 2-weight world champion, WSOF. Obviously, he was the middleweight and light heavyweight champ. So, you know, he's fought guys that are big. He's fought Vinny Magalhaes, who isn't a small bloke.
No small feat, yeah, exactly.
So, really good fighter.
Let the guy have some fun. Let the guy go for a belt.
Yeah, previously, obviously, was in the UFC before this in a stint. I think he had like 1 or 2 fights and was cut.
Dana didn't like him because he was boring or something like that. I think it was.
And I think he's all but shown that he is definitely not boring so far.
There we go. There we go.
Next fight, though, was a heavyweight contest, and we probably should have changed our prediction, swapped them round from the last fight in this one. Justin Willis defeated Chase Sherman by decision. We both had it down as a round 1 knockout.
We did.
And wow.
Justin Willis, rather, looked really good in those first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Third round, not so much. Sort of had given everything he had and just stood there, absorbed a few shots, and didn't offer much in that third round.
I have to say fair play to Chase Sherman, though. Yeah. I thought his rate to recover and his ability to recover was fantastic in this fight.
100%.
That first round, I genuinely thought it was over.
Yeah, it looked it.
Yeah, when I saw he got knocked down.
With like a left hook or something like that. Like
and then
wild left hook.
Multiple shots on the ground. But he came back.
Good job of covering up and bringing Justin Willis close to him so he couldn't get off much ground and pound.
And then he stood up like straight away.
The Vanilla Gorilla's a tough guy.
But I don't see him fighting too many more fights in the UFC.
Not much.
He was known to not have a strong chin before this fight. Yeah. So the fact that he did come back, I was quite surprised at that. But I think that's 3 losses in 4 fights now. Yeah, I don't see him doing too much now in the UFC. He's 2-4 now in the UFC, so
not great. We'll see what the man
probably see him back in Titan FC.
Yeah, it's a tough loss, obviously, for him. Deserved loss, though, if we're being honest. I don't think anyone had scored it any other ways. That last round, although it wasn't as exciting as the first 2 rounds, Justin Willis still probably the guy.
Yeah, I'd say Sherman probably won that last round. 29-28 win.
Not a bad.
Deserved.
Exactly.
I mean, he climbed up a few places in the ranks. You might see him come up against a top 15 opponent now.
Yeah, and heavyweight's a division that needs it.
Yeah, so, I mean, he definitely doesn't look like a marketable fighter. I mean, you wouldn't put him on many posters.
No.
He's a little bit on the chubby side, a little bit on the short side as
well.
A little bit. I don't know. Maybe if you want to go the full route with him, I wouldn't give him Mark Hunt yet.
No.
Because they both have a similar style and look the same.
Yeah. Battle of the belly.
Yeah. But I don't know. Who would you give him the top 15? Because I can't really think of too many heavyweights that are breaking out that you could probably give him.
I'm not 100% sure either. Let's just have a quick look at these rankings here. See what heavyweight rankings are saying.
Because it could be interesting. Because with the heavyweights, there's not too much blood at the moment there.
Yeah, heavyweight and light heavyweight. They're both, unfortunately, divisions that are... Struggling, lacking a little bit.
I mean, you've got a #1 contender fight between Ilir Latifi and Glover Teixeira and Mauricio Shogun Hua and Volkov Ozdemira coming up. So the heavyweights aren't really too great at the moment.
So Justin Willis is 15th ranked at the moment.
Oh, so he's jumped into the top 15
So he's jumped
now.
into that top 15. But it depends how far they want to push him. If they want to give him someone like Stefan Struve, who's it'd be an interesting sort of tall guy versus short guy, slender guy versus fat guy, more sort of a freak show fight for me, if anything.
I mean, you could see him get the winner of Alexei Oleinik versus Junior Albini.
Yeah.
Obviously, the next UFC event that one's at, so you could see him maybe get the winner of that. Shamil Abubakar, he's there as well. Obviously, coming off a loss to Derek Lewis. I think I can't remember if he's fought since then. So yeah, it could be any one of them guys.
But doing decent, gets into that top 15, and we'll see what he can do from here. Not too many fights away from that top 10.
Next fight was the co-main event, the featherweight contest between Frankie the Answer Edgar and Cub Swanson. I felt bad for Swanson.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to fight too many fights after this now.
I think he spoke once or twice before about thinking about finishing. I think once he was so close to retiring, and then they offered him a fight, and he just sort of last minute took it. So yeah, tough loss for him. But Frankie looked good, man. Frankie looks like, even if this, I saw someone put saw something on the internet the other day that someone said, even if this last attempt at making the featherweight title doesn't work, he's just going to drop down and go for the bantamweight title.
Yeah.
Which it was not out of the question. Frankie Edgar is one of those guys that just keeps bouncing back. We questioned whether he'd be able to bounce back after his first knockout loss, and showed that it really didn't affect him.
And I was really impressed with him. He just showed the usual Edgar that we get, the old Edgar, the fantastic Edgar.
Willing to strike, willing to wrestle, everything, and he's a tough guy, and I would not be surprised if they gave him the winner of Max and Brian Ortega.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'd give him Ortega a game just yet. I think if Ortega comes out on top, I don't think that they'd give it to him. But if you see how many times he's been scheduled to fight Max, I can see him do it again.
100%. I mean, it's unfortunate because
I think it's the third time.
Yeah, it would be if they fought again. So I think they've pulled out one apiece now.
Yeah. So got to go for that trilogy fight.
Yeah, got to go for or try and make it a third time. We've seen that doesn't always work out. When a fight gets cancelled twice, the third time doesn't always mean that it's going to happen. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I personally want to see him drop down to bantamweight, see if he can make it. You know, give him someone that's not a top opponent. Maybe give him someone like the guy who beat Brian Calloway in his last fight. I think it was Brian Keller. Can't remember off the top of my head right now. Maybe give him someone like that. Maybe a Reina Barrero potentially. Someone who's not done too great, but you know, is someone that's there in that division. Someone around them lines, maybe.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think that because he's so close to that top spot in featherweight,
you can't give him a lower opponent.
You would have to maybe give him someone in the top 5. But then when you look at that top 5, they're all.
I can't see Frankie beating the people in the top 5. You see, like even a John Lineker, I think would give Frankie Edgar problems.
Wow.
Because of the power that he's got.
Wow, I think Frankie probably takes that fight to the ground and just sort of does Frankie Edgar shit.
And the problem is, Lineker's still a good fighter on the ground. Like he's not great. Obviously,
I don't think he's Frankie Edgar level. And like you just said, we saw in that TJ Dillashaw fight that TJ just sort of 100%. It wasn't even close. TJ Dillashaw showing in that fight that he's an absolute animal, and so it'll be tough. But
I don't see him beating Dominic. I think Cruz. I think that one fight against Garbrandt, I think it's not a fluke, but we saw Cruz get too emotionally involved in a fight. I think at that point,
yeah.
I think TJ Dillashaw is at the moment probably top 5 pound for pound best fighters in the world.
Yeah,
I genuinely think he's that good. Cody Garbrandt. Will he be able to take on the power? We haven't really seen Cody on the ground too much, so
no.
You know,
but I think he was a former wrestler. I think that's what he initially started off
Gloves. I know
Golden Gloves champion. Yeah,
he was a purebred boxer.
He was, I think, an undefeated amateur boxer or something like that.
Yeah, his
which
uncle
doesn't mean much because most. I mean,
Stipe was a Golden Gloves champ. Yeah,
in the UFC, most are. I think Brendan Schaub was a Golden Gloves champion.
I mean, if Brendan Schaub
exactly,
is, then I am.
There we go. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. I do want to see that Max fight. I think that's one question that people always say is how can Max do against someone like Frankie Edgar, who's an amazing wrestler, and how will Frankie be able to take Max down, who's got amazing takedown defense? So it's a really interesting fight to see, and hopefully all things work out. We get to see that fight sometime.
Yeah, I think it's like with the Ortega Edgar fight, I think that's a more evolved version of Frankie Edgar,
possibly
taking on Max Holloway, because he's got the takedowns, he's got probably a better submission game, he's got the striking, he's got the boxing. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
but we'll talk about that in the news.
Yes,
because there's been a lot of fight announcements.
Yes,
and then finally the main event, we saw a catchweight bout, a 157 pounds bout, because Kevin Lee failed to make weight. He took on Edson Jr. Barboza and defeated him by 5th round TKO. The doctor stopped the fight after he took an absolute pounding. I actually woke up halfway through the first round.
Yeah.
So I thought, what's the time? Looked at the time and thought, I'm just going to get a stream. So I pulled a stream up and I watched the fight. And when that head kick happened in that 3rd round, I genuinely thought, I believe I predicted it right. With the Frankie fight though, we both predicted a Frankie decision, so both get 2 points for that one.
Both got that one.
But yeah, that head kick, I have to take my hat off to Kevin Lee and say fair play for recovering from that.
I was I think 2 minutes off from getting that final perfect as well. Doctor stopped it. Don't know if I agreed with the stoppage. I think they just let the man go. It was a cut, but it was below the eye, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, his whole head was
his whole head was absolutely mangled, and I understand from that point in that he's absorbed so much damage that it really can't be good for him. I think at the moment he's suspended indefinitely as well. I think they've given him they've given him a suspension until he does CT scans and brain scans, and even then they'll see.
Well, he's absorbed 254 significant strikes in his last 2 fights.
Exactly, I was going to say that it's basically like a replay of the Khabib fight.
Yeah,
for poor old.
But an extra 2 rounds.
Exactly, and tough loss for the man. He got absolutely dominated in this fight. Other than that 3rd round where he caught him with a spinning wheel kick or whatever it was,
and didn't even connect as clean as he would have liked. Probably. Yeah, it was. The man's power.
I mean, even towards that end, towards the 5th round and 4th round, he was still throwing kicks, and they were rapid, throwing them much faster than most people could if they'd come out fresh. So Edson showing that he's still a dangerous fighter, but
Kevin Lee calling out Khabib after the fight. Yeah. I don't think he gets the Khabib fight next.
Possibly
I think
not,
because he lost to Tony Ferguson so earlier. So recently, I don't think he gets the fight. Personally, I would like to see Dustin Poirier versus Khabib. Obviously, depending on the McGregor-Ferguson situation. I'd like to see that main event card, and then on the main card or the co-main to see Kevin Lee versus Eddie Alvarez.
Okay, I disagree. I feel it should be the other way around. I want the Eddie Alvarez-Poirier rematch, and I feel like Khabib's closer to that title than Dustin is.
Really, you think Kevin Lee?
I genuinely do. I think he's come off a interim title fight, and then obviously this fight. The interim title fight was a tough loss for him. He obviously lost it.
Which he was very close to not making weight to as well.
He was, but he was also had a staph infection, and there's so many things that were going on in that fight, and he didn't look bad in that fight against Tony. And the
problem is, I think, is Poirier hasn't lost to that big name opponent like Lee has recently.
No, I can see him making it either way. I think Khabib probably would like to face Poirier instead of Lee. I think Lee poses a few more issues for him in that they're both really good wrestlers. So it'd be interesting to see. I just want it for that fact. I just want to see who's the better wrestler. I think Khabib's probably got the edge, but he's not going to be able to dominate as he does other fighters, because Kevin Lee's a strong guy as well. So it will be interesting to see if that fight ever gets made anytime soon, which I don't think either fight gets made anytime soon. I think Connor's probably the fight that they want.
Oh yeah, I had a dream last night which was really weird. God, it's completely off topic about Conor and Khabib. So Conor was in his flash motor driving about, and Khabib sees him in the side of the street. This is genuinely like, I remember this clear as day, and Conor rolls the window down, starts shouting abuse at Khabib. Khabib walks over and they shake hands while Conor sat in the car.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what they were going on about.
I don't think that would happen in real life.
No.
But that is the fight to make.
I think maybe Khabib throws a dolly through the window.
Gets his revenge. But no, the Conor Khabib fight is probably the fight to make. I mean, if we're being totally honest, the Tony Khabib fight is the fight to make, but there's probably not much of a chance that fight's going to happen anytime soon.
I want to see the Conor Khabib fight personally. So I really want to see it. I didn't think I'd be disinvested in a Conor McGregor fight after the Floyd, because I thought, oh, whatever, he's just a joke now. But he created a jokey thing by what he did is ridiculous, like as in he is a joke. But by doing that, it's drawn interest.
Yeah.
And by drawing that interest, I'm like, shit, I want to see him back in the octagon.
I think that we forget that he's a genuinely really good fighter.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to forget that because he's become this sort of MMA in joke at the moment.
He is in the top 3 pound for pound for a reason.
Yeah, and you can argue that he probably doesn't deserve to be there because he hasn't fought in a while, which is a fair argument. But before that, he was on a tear. I mean, you can say that he was hand-picked opponents, but he's beat the likes of Jose Aldo,
Chad Mendes,
who is Eddie Alvarez. There we got Dustin Poirier, who we're now saying that it was a different Dustin, but we're still saying that Dustin's in title contention at the moment.
And at the same time, he picks the rounds when he beats them. If you look at the Jose Aldo fight, the build-up to when he was originally supposed to face Aldo and Mendes pulled out instead, did an interview with Chael Sonnen, and he said, I might beat him in 13 seconds, or something like along them lines, 11, it might have been 13 or 11.
I think he was genuinely, he was joking, but he genuinely predicted inside the first half of round number 1, which is crazy. So, like I said, you can forget that the man's a really good fighter, and that could be fight, despite all this animosity and all these jokes, again, from either side, will be a genuinely good contest and a really fun fight to watch, I reckon.
And I mean, I think you do a world tour with that as well. I think you announce it in July for a November card.
Yeah, you have to. You have to go to Russia, you have to go to Dublin.
You have to go to London.
You have to go to Dublin's a little bit too close. I would hope that they would, because we could
go
to that. We could get to that. But yeah, it'd be really interesting to see.
They usually go to London with things.
They do. It would make sense. The UK
they
is
go
a big
Las
market.
Vegas.
Yeah,
they go New York, and then they round it off in Brazil or something. Like
yeah,
that.
exactly. And it should be
Toronto. They usually go. Yeah,
it should be a fun one to see, and hopefully it comes to be. But we don't know. There's just too many issues at the moment with Conor's legal actions and all these other people that want to fight Khabib.
Hey, and then take Kevin Lee and Poirier, make their matchup. If you can't do that, make them the matchup.
Exactly.
Take
and then
them with you.
And then you have. But this is just the issue with the lightweight division, because even if you make that
too many
fight,
people.
Exactly. Even if you make that fight and the winner, you can't say that he's the number one contender because you've still got Tony
and Alvarez. Who's sitting out because he wants the title
There
shot.
we go. I mean, it's just
do a lightweight one night tournament.
It's just so tough because you have all these guys that want to. I mean, a one night tournament would be fun.
Could you imagine? You put Gaethje Barboza is the first fight, and then you do Conor Khabib, then you do Eddie versus Poirier, and then you do Lee versus Ferguson.
Genuinely, it's tough to pick, but I would pick if they did a one night tournament.
I think Khabib would win it.
Do you reckon?
I think Khabib
I was going to pick Tony.
Oh,
I think Tony would be
crazy as fuck, isn't
I
he?
think Tony would be able to, if they did one night tournament, Pride style, where you just go until there's a champion. I think Tony's got it, man.
Could you imagine it's a Khabib versus Tony final, but then one of them gets injured on the way in?
Oh my god! One of them trips off over a cable or something, or decides to kick a steel pole.
Does the Kevin Randleman headbutts the pole?
I would lose my mind. Not that would ever even happen. I mean, the UFC would kill themselves if they.
The Athletic Commission would genuinely hunt them down.
100%. But not just that. I think the UFC would put themselves in a corner where they basically got their top guys fighting in one night.
I would love that though.
Would draw crazy. Would draw crazy.
Could you imagine the pay-per-view numbers?
Goodness, probably. I mean, I think at this point, any fight that Conor's on is probably going to break pay-per-view records.
But then, if you've got Alvarez, Khabib on top of that,
Khabib who's becoming a draw in his own right.
Alvarez was a draw previously as well. He's the underground king for a reason. Then you've got Tony Ferguson, who's slowly beginning a following. You've got Kevin Lee, who's got a social media following.
Oh, goodness.
Brazil's got Edson Barboza.
I would lose my mind. I think we would all lose our
mind. And what did I say? Gaethje as well's on there.
Yeah.
Throw Gaethje in the mix.
Why not? Man, it would be amazing. It would be amazing to see, but it's just... Unless you can do it on like a video game, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not real. It's
devastating. But yeah, that does it for Atlantic City.
Yes.
Kind of got a little bit off topic towards the end, but yeah, we're going to go ahead and crack into the news now. Livio, the news was a little bit different this week. We didn't have too many pieces, but a lot of the pieces that were announced were pretty mega.
Yeah. So if we start off with fight announcements, that Stipe DC card shaping up real nice.
It's got a lot of fights announced on there.
Always with International Fight Week, they like to go ham. They like to go really, really strong. But the card itself, if we run down it real quick, this is the main card, and I think a few prelim fights. But Stipe DC,
very good fight.
Very good fight.
I think this pay-per-view does 1 million buys, by the way.
Yeah,
I think it just breaks 1 million. 1,050,000.
I think if it's marketed correctly and they build it up correctly, yes. But the issue is that Stipe and DC are both not draws.
I don't think they're draws, but I think the fact that people see DC as the guy that John Jones fought, and
yeah,
he put a fight up.
So from what I saw online is the Ultimate Fighter the first episode of the new series of Ultimate Fighter only did about 200,000 views, which is not good.
I read as well that a lot of people have watched it in Australia on Fight Pass.
Okay.
A lot of people broke the numbers there, and as well over here it drew quite well. Obviously they air it at 9 PM on BT Sport.
Yeah.
The day after.
So there's still a little bit.
I heard it was breaking the 200,000 barrier, which over here is very good numbers.
I suppose so. I suppose there's still genuine interest. The issue is when we're talking about pay-per-view is only in America.
Yeah.
So it would only be, from that standpoint, it would have to cross into mainstream, and I just don't think either of those guys has at the moment. I would hope that it does, because I think both guys deserve it, because they're both really, really good guys. But yeah, that's slightly off topic. Anyways, next fight on that, we have Max Holloway and Brian Ortega, a fight that we were just talking about.
Woo!
Crazy fight, two guys that are at the moment showing that there's a new breed in MMA, guys that can do everything.
Guys that are marketable.
And marketable, exactly. Both young guys, both guys that are
a lot
marketable, but marketable in their own sense. In the sense that they're doing it somewhat themselves. They're not waiting for the push.
And you look at Max Holloway and the fact that he has got his morals down. 1, he's a family man. 2, he's a lot of fun. 3, he's gone the Demetrius Johnson way of being a people person and being a fans guy. And I think he's done it better than Johnson. I think Johnson has a disadvantage because of his size, but I think Holloway has done that in a quote better way. 2
really, really good guys, and 2 guys, and you speak about Max Holloway being a good guy. Brian Ortega's a really good guy as well.
Sleeps on the floor.
Has a charity as well where he funds, I think, at-risk youths to go through the Gracie Academy, something that happened to himself because I think the Gracie Academy gave him a scholarship. So it's a really, really fun fight and 2 really good guys, and you hope nothing but the best for the 2. Next fight on that,
to call as well.
100%.
I think it's going to be a -100 fight.
I would not be surprised. It is a really. If you ask me for a pick right now, I don't know. I'd probably just go Brian Ortega just for the sheer sake of
I'd go majority draw.
It is a really tough fight. But the next fight on the card, Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis. Oh my goodness.
Derek Lewis said Francis Ngannou is 50 years old. He said he is not his age. He does not believe him. And do you know what? I kind of agree. That man is not like the age he says he is.
Now, if that man is 50, I'm going to take whatever supplements he's taking because there's no way a 50-year-old should look like him, hit as hard as him, and be as cut as him. But wow, fight's been building for ages. Before the Stipe fight, sorry. Ngannou's been wanting Derek Lewis.
Yeah, Derek Lewis has been calling out Ngannou.
Derek Lewis, sorry, has been wanting Ngannou.
Ngannou became a thing.
100%. Derek Lewis, one of those guys that.
There's no way that man is 31 though.
I mean, his face looks a little bit worn out, but that might just be from getting punched a bunch of times, if we're being honest. But yeah, Derek Lewis and Ngannou, I mean, crazy fight. Tough to call again. And 2 big punches. 2 guys that could end it at any moment.
With the card that's there, it is a contender for fight of the weekend.
Wow. Yeah, again, a lot of talk about this. I think Derek Lewis said that the UFC should just make this a one round 2-minute fight or something like that.
Yeah, he said it should be 2-minute rounds, half-an-hour breaks in between each round, and there's no wrestling around.
I mean, we were speaking about the one night tournament. That would probably, this right here, if they did 30-minute breaks and 3 2-minute rounds or whatever, that would probably be the craziest thing we'd ever seen. The guys would just be swinging from the fences. It would be amazing to watch.
I'm very much looking forward to the Ngannou-Lewis fight, though. Very, very much. And it could go either way, because we know Derek Lewis has that style where he does not care.
Yeah.
If you look at the way he fights, since the Sean Jordan fight, yeah, he got knocked out, but that was ages ago. Look at him now. The only time... He took punches from Mark Hunt. Granted, yeah, he got knocked out in the 5th round, but that was a gassed out that had taken multiple punches from Mark Hunt. And if you look at Mark Hunt and Ngannou... And this is something Chael Sonnen argued, and I don't agree with Chael Sonnen often.
There we go.
But I kind of agree with him on this one. Mark Hunt probably has more power than Ngannou. If you look at how short and stacked and his
produced more power, yeah.
He probably has got a lot more power than Ngannou. And yeah, Ngannou has knocked out
He's longer so he can catch you with the end of the punches, so he gets a bit more momentum in that sense. But
if you look at the people he's knocked out Overeem and Arlovski.
Yeah.
Granted, they are legends of the sport. But look at their chins.
Not the same that they... I mean, Overeem's always had slight issues. He's always been...
Well, I mean, he got knocked out for a punch.
Yeah.
The Hua punch we saw a while ago.
So, yeah, I know what you're saying. He's knocked out guys that are not quite considered to have these granite chins as others, but...
like a Derek Lewis has. Yeah. And I think Lewis takes his fight.
Yeah.
I think this is the rise of the Black Beast.
Here's the thing. I think if people want to make money in this, instead of betting on a winner, they probably bet if it goes the 3rd round.
Yeah.
I mean, just to say F it and why not, just put like £1 on that and then God knows how much money you'll get.
Yeah, back. I mean, it's probably like a lot of money.
Next fight that we're going to talk about, Rafael Assunção versus Rob Font.
I think we spoke about this in the episode 2 ones back.
Very possible.
Looking forward to that either way. I think it's a good fight between 2 top contenders in the bantamweight division.
Then we got your guy, Gokhan Saki versus Khalil Roundtree.
This is going to be a fight.
100%. Gokhan Saki just...
The Turkish Tyson.
There was a lot of talk about him when he came into the UFC, about how he's going to do in the UFC. And
granted, he's fought people that ain't ground specialists.
Yeah.
But what's the point in doing that?
Exactly. I think you've got a guy who's well known from another sport.
Yeah.
Not quite... we're not talking about CM Punk levels of notoriety here. But we are talking about someone that's fairly well known. And a kickboxing legend, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
And just give him stand-up, guys, and let him show you what he can do.
I can't wait for this fight. I genuinely cannot wait. Khalil Roundtree at the same time is a decent fighter, but the speed of Gokhan Saki is going to be way too much. If you look at that man's hand speed, it's ridiculous.
And if we're being honest, 205 pounds, that's what the guy could be challenging for that title soon. I mean,
he was a heavyweight beforehand, and he's coming down to 205. He was a heavyweight in kickboxing. When he left, he was the Glory Light heavyweight champ. Beat Tyrone Spong in his last fight, I'm pretty sure, or he beat him just beforehand.
Beat someone,
for the Glory Light heavyweight belt. And like you said, Gokhan could be a contender if he works on his jiu-jitsu, which he says he's been training with the Turkish wrestling team with takedown defense.
Turkey has some good wrestling. I think it's like a national sport, wrestling in Turkey. So
and if he's been doing that, and granted he's got that Middle Eastern kind of vibe, you know, the Russia market. I see Gokhan getting up there.
The guy, he's definitely one that they could market if they do it correctly and give him the right fights. He's one that they can market.
I think with this win, he breaks into the top 15.
Yeah, I mean, we know the UFC rankings are a little bit fishy as is, and they can put him wherever they want. But I don't disagree with that. I think if they, like I said, market him correctly, give him a few stand-up guys, let him have a few a few highlight reel knockouts.
Like look at that.
We know that you can get them.
Henrique da Silva fight. That is a highlight knockout.
Yeah.
If you look at that, the way he swung and the way he connected with him and the way Henrique went down. Oh, I'm just getting giddy thinking about it now. Like it is a good knockout. And, you know, give him someone in that top 15 after if he can get past Khalil Roundtree, which I think he does. Give him someone in that top 15, you know. Give him a Jimmy Manoa. Give him someone who's not got a chin or not got a great chin but is still a good stand-up fighter. That fight with Jimmy Manoa could headline a UK card.
I mean, I think he could headline most... not a pay-per-view. Not a pay-per-view, that's a little bit tough.
Oh no, a UK card.
But a fight night of 100% anywhere, it would be a really decent fight to watch.
You know, fight past it. Get it on Fight Pass, get it over in Europe, and you've got yourself a sellout.
Two guys that are probably more well-known in Europe than they are in America anyways, because Gokhan Saki is obviously from Turkey. Someone like Manoa, obviously a UK guy, who's beginning to draw a little bit of notoriety here as well with rumours of the David Haye fight and stuff like that. So it'd be really interesting to see. It would be really interesting to see. But moving on to the next fight. Yancy Medeiros versus Mike Perry.
No, you know the Just Bleed gif? This is literally it right here.
Crazy, two guys that just don't care.
I am looking forward to this fight.
I am somewhat as well. It's tough because I still like Mike Perry. I still like his whole shtick. I like the sort of I don't care in your face.
He's got rid of his girlfriend.
He has done. Well, wait. I mean, she was in his corner for the last few fights, which is odd because I don't think she's got any MMA training, does she? So it's a weird one in that sense. But it'll be interesting to see. Mike Perry hoping that he can bounce, but both guys hoping that they can bounce back. But Mike Perry on a slightly more.
I think Medeiros gets it done personally.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. I think Mike Perry showing that maybe he's more talk than action. I hope not because I enjoy the guy. I really do want him to win. I really do think that
listening to his interview on the MMA Hour, it was a very interesting story.
Yeah.
I think he had like a 40-50 minute segment where he just explained his life.
He's a really interesting guy. And if you watch that, you'll begin to like the guy more instead of just listening to his interviews, into his fight talk and stuff like that. Because when you're hyping a fight, rather you do talk shit a little bit.
And when you look at him, he's not your stereotypical. Oh, I like this fighter. He's got a tattoo on his eyebrow.
On his face, dresses extravagantly. Sometimes there was I think one picture of him with like brown chinos and a floral shirt or something like that, which isn't great. But he shows that he can dress sometimes.
And you know. He still wants that Darren Till fight, which I don't think he's going to get.
Not anytime soon. I think the time to make it would be after the Poland card. I think.
Yeah.
But now it's slightly too late.
He took the fight with Santiago.
Yeah.
And I said that like I didn't mean to. He took the fight with Santiago Ponzinibbio.
Both guys have moved past him at the moment as well, which is slightly unfortunate. But like I said, I could see Medeiros winning it, but I hope in my heart of hearts that Mike Perry gets it done. But going on to the next fight, Paulo the Eraser Costa, Borrachinha Costa versus Uriah Hall.
And again, we talk about stand-up fights.
Paulo Costa, a guy that they're really trying to push at the moment, it looks like.
I mean, he has the body of God.
100%. The guy looks unreal. He looks like some cartoonist drew him and made him.
Took your video game character on EA UFC 3 and you've just gone, I want that, I'm going to do that. And I can spin, I can punch.
More so on like a WWE game because you can give him like crazy bulky physiques and stuff like that. But interesting guy. A guy that we both picked for big things this year.
Yeah.
We both spoke about like prospects. Paulo Costa is one that's getting up there, and I think I made the case the day that he's not too far from a title fight if he gets the right fights and gets the right matchups in the division itself. Probably at 2 or 3 fights away.
The problem is with middleweight, it's quite a stacked division, so it's going to be difficult to break out there. Obviously, I think, you know, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I think he's just outside the top 10 now, or 10.
He's like 11.
11
I know Uriah Hall is 10th.
Something like that. So,
how is Uriah Hall 10th? Is my question.
There we go. I think sometimes it helps if you're a name and you do a bunch of crazy spinning stuff. But yeah, it'd be an interesting fight to see, and hopefully it happens, because obviously we know Uriah Hall had slight issues with his last weight cut, almost died.
Yeah, so, against Vitor Belfort.
Yeah.
So.
Hopefully this fight happens, and it'll be really interesting to see if Costa can break into that top 10, and Uriah Hall still, although probably past his best, still not an easy fight for anyone. So it'll be nice to see.
Yeah, very interesting.
Moving on to another. I don't know if there's any more fight announcements that you wanted to talk about.
If you're just talking about fight announcements in general, UFC Hamburg got their main event. So you've got Osman Madeira versus Shogun Rua, which potentially could be a #1 contender fight, which is interesting. Shogun in a #1 contender fight in 2018. Ilir Latifi versus Glover Teixeira is set to be announced as well for UFC. I think it's Bagos, is it?
I heard that it might be on Hamburg as well.
Oh, I read it was on Bagos.
Possibly.
Or whatever the card is.
Possibly. Yeah. It would make more sense if they split them up, because, I mean, there's not many like heavyweight contenders at the moment, so probably best to have them on different cards instead of just the one.
I think it's Bagos. I'm not really sure where it is.
Either way, rumored fights.
Either way, Glover Teixeira and Ilir Latifi are set to be announced as well. We also saw the full lineup for the Bellator 200 card get announced. Something we're going to be at. We're probably going to document that when we go there. Yep. So it should be interesting for when we go there. There we go. Oh, it's been announced for Hamburg. Yeah, like you said.
There we go.
Yeah, UFC 134 at Hamburg.
So they're going in on that Hamburg card.
Yeah, it should be an interesting.
It's their first time in Germany.
No, it's been there loads. No, Franklin fought there.
There we go.
Loads.
Goodness knows what I'm talking about. Just a few more bits of news before we move on. So USADA found a Brazilian lab that made supplements for people like Dos Santos and
Little
Nog. And a few other people. They found them that they were tainting supplements, or had sold supplements that were tainted. So Dos Santos and Little Dog have no longer got to serve any suspension. They were handed a quote-unquote 6-month suspension that they'd already served because of how long it's been since the investigation started. So they're both back now. Interesting to see.
Yeah, I think that's interesting as well.
Yeah, another example of USADA maybe not getting it quite right.
Junior, I want to see him back in the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
I think it needs a bit of blood back in there, and I think Junior can do that. Problem is he realistically gonna make a cause? Like his last fight, granted he lost to the champ, but
yeah, I noticed it'll be a little bit difficult for him to push back into that. Well, I don't think it's going to be difficult for him to push back into that top 5 or to maybe even that title contention. But it would be interesting to see how far he can go. He's been out for a little while. Obviously, I think before the whole thing happened, he was supposed to fight Ngannou. That fight's probably now past him.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back around, because just with the weak division itself, the guy comes back and he's already up there, unfortunately.
Same with Ben Rothwell as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's coming back and he's going to be up there. Obviously, the 2 of 4. I don't want to see them fight again. I thought it wasn't a flattering fight. It was an okay fight. It wasn't great. Which actually, I think that was in Germany actually.
There we go.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of fights in Germany.
Another piece of news: Alexander Shlemenko has had a new fight announced for M1 Global, but he's obviously still under contract to Bellator. He's had a little bit of problems with Bellator. He's been saying that they didn't want him to fight.
Okay.
So yeah, he wants to go ahead and sign for the UFC when his contract runs out in 2019. So Alexander, the spinning shit master, Shlemenko, could cause a bit of a ruckus at middleweight, in my opinion. I think he's a very interesting fighter that could come into the UFC. People on Reddit call him the helicopter because he just spins a lot.
Fair enough.
He obviously had that mental spinning back fist KO. I think it could be interesting to see him come over to the UFC if they go ahead and attempt to sign him. Yeah. I mean, if they want to do that Russia card, Shlemenko's a man you want to put on there.
Maybe by 2019 might be a little bit late, because I think that Russia card's happening this year, no?
Well, they say so, but they've said they were going to do Russia cards for 2-3 years now.
There we go.
As well as that, BT are expected to put the UFC on their brand new pay-per-view channel, so it could be a little bit interesting for our UK fans. Obviously, I think they said that, well, not too many details are out there, but I would figure that Fight Nights and Fox cards would still be on
hopefully
Fight Pass / BT normal, and then the pay-per-view cards would be on pay-per-view. The rumour is they're looking for £5 and £10 deals for what you want to go ahead and purchase. Like I said, the full 200 card for Bellator has been announced, and the main event is officially Mirko Krokop versus Roy Nelson. A little bit interesting that fight got the nod ahead of the middleweight title fight between Gegard Mousasi and Rafael Correia.
I mean, you would think it'd be weird, but with Bellator, I'd expect to have the names over the actual proper fight that everyone's looking forward to, maybe more so, because it will be an actual decent contest, as opposed to these two old guys that maybe it's more of a, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's cool either way, because we're going to see the 5-round fight. Obviously, they did the same for the Rampage and Chael fight with the Rory McDonald and Koreshkov. So, you know, it's going to happen. It's Bellator.
Yeah, exactly. Names above other things, unfortunately.
Either way, Bellator is still, in
the
my
card
opinion,
itself is still pretty fun.
Yeah.
You can't take that away from the card. It doesn't really matter who's going to headline it.
And then finally, the last fight announcement, James Vick versus Paul Felder is set to be announced for a UFC Fight Night main event.
Wow.
Which should be quite interesting. I expect that will be a Fight Pass one. Either way, I think that's a really fun fight. Two stand-up guys.
Yeah.
Two fun guys to watch as well in the octagon.
Exactly. James Vick getting what he wants with a higher ranked guy.
And Paul Felder getting a fight.
Exactly.
Which he wants. So yeah, that does it for the news. We actually went on around about 20 minutes there, so a long news one. Yes, we're going to go ahead and go into our flashback card. So we went ahead and we looked at Cage Rage 9. This is obviously the 9th event that Cage Rage have put on. The one after this was the infamous Anderson Silva versus Lee Murray fight, but we've gone ahead and looked at Cage Rage 9 since, if you have a look at it, there was a few names which made the UFC and made some noise. So, the first little bit, what did you think, Livio? In my opinion, the intro screamed 2000s.
I was thinking the exact same thing. It screamed early noise. It was quite clearly a UK thing. There was garage music playing. There was these quick flashy lights going everywhere. I think they had a guy that was on his stenders as the ring announcer, if I'm not wrong. Some random guy.
Yeah, I thought I recognised him.
I think he was on his stenders because I remember seeing it.
He interviewed the people after the fight. Yeah.
It was really weird, but yeah, like you said, I mean, it was quite clearly a UK-based MMA organisation in the early 2000s.
Yeah, it was really strange to say the least. But some of the talent on this card is ridiculously
hadn't
good.
aged so well. I don't think the overall production of it really hadn't aged so well.
I mean, the quick shots, the zoom in, zoom out of the women.
I think it didn't help him that the event wasn't live or wasn't broadcast live because you could quite clearly see. You could quite clearly see that they'd hit the editing booth afterwards.
I mean, with Brad Pickett's fight having music over it.
Oh my! That was probably the thing.
That was the only fight that had it as well. Which is
I know. I think they'd done it, realised that it was trash, and then couldn't be bothered to erase it and just let it be as it was.
But yeah, like we said, the first fight of the evening then, as we mentioned, Brad Pickett fought. Obviously a UK MMA legend coming into his infamous song with the hat on, looking like a gypsy.
Like and the shirt on as well, which was really cool.
Yeah, which he kept inside the octagon as well for a while. But yeah, Brad Pickett straight away, 17 seconds, gets the knockout.
Crazy. I mean, they were speaking a lot of, I think it was either his debut or his second fight.
It was his second fight in professional MMA.
And they were speaking about, Brad One Punch Pickett, and he came out and he showed why the name is One Punch Pickett, because he floored the guy.
So yeah, the guy he fought him was Stuart Grant, and I did this for most of the fights on here. Stuart Grant, he ended his MMA career with 1 win and 7 losses.
Oh wow!
According to Sherdog. So with a lot of these fights, I've gone back and looked at the records.
Fair enough.
So yeah, it's quite interesting to see where half of these people came from.
I did not realise that.
Yeah.
Not a tough loss then. The guy was used to losing.
At this point, I think he was 1-1 though, because I looked at the records at Sherdog.
Okay.
Obviously, Sherdog is quite reliable. Yeah. So yeah, I went ahead and looked at that. But the next fight, Livio, I am not going to pronounce the second guy's name, so I will just leave it at. We saw Mustafa Al Turk fight. Do you want to attempt to pronounce that?
I'll give it to him. Feridun Nagizadeh, something like that. I'm sure we'd both butcher that name. It's a very tough name to pronounce. But Mustafa looked good.
Yeah, I mean, I texted you, didn't I, while I was watching this Cage Rage fight? I said it was a little bit weird, and I said, without spoilers, someone gets knocked out within 1 second of the fight. This was the fight I was going on about. Like, literally, Mustafa Altuve walked over to the cage
Yeah.
and mate was like wobbling around.
Wobbled him early. He looked like he'd composed himself a little bit later in that fight, but just it never manifested. The guy looked done from, like you said, from that offset.
He was just fucking him up on the feet.
Yeah,
and then he
100%.
took him. And they were saying about this Nagazeda was a like Olympic wrestler or something like
Wow.
that. I think the commentators were going on something about like that, and he just got dominated.
It did not look like he was an Olympic wrestler. Well, I mean, he may have been. He might just have been piped so bad that he forgot what to do. He'd forgot that he was an Olympic level wrestler and just flailed about, basically.
But yeah, Alturk won the fight. I mostly remember Alturk for literally almost dying inside the UFC. He fought Czech Congo, and the amount of blood that was on Mustafa Alturk's face was genuinely like it was from a horror film. Yeah, we may have to go back and watch just that one fight because it was genuinely one of the most disturbing, like,
interesting
ground and pounds that I have ever seen. But yeah, Mustafa Alturk gets the victory in 2 minutes 25 seconds. Yeah, TKO win. Again, like I said, I went back and looked at these guys' records when they retired. So Nagazida ended his career 2-2, and Alturk finished 6-6.
Wow!
So for a man that fought in the UFC, he finished his career 6-6.
Interesting. Both guys with equal losses and wins.
And going into this fight, that was Nagazida's first ever MMA fight, and whereas Mustafa Alturk was 0-2.
Wow!
Yeah, 0-2.
Wow!
Going into the next fight, then we saw Sami Beric take on Abdul Mohammed. This was a welterweight fight.
Yeah.
I literally had no idea who any of these guys were going into this.
No, I heard they mentioned Sami Beric had a background in Tai Chi, which I didn't think was a fighting sport. Tai Chi is a slow, the sort of thing that you see people do at the park where they just move all slow.
Playing touch butt in the park, is it?
Basically, and they said he had a background in Tai Chi, so I was like, is this going to be one of those guys that has a fake black belt in something?
And I thought he was fucking shit.
He seemed it. He had a bit of a trash little facial hair and everything. Looked a little bit like a...
I thought he was crap in the fight as well, though. I thought Mohammed was so unlucky to lose this fight. He hit 2 big takedowns.
Yes, 100%. And taking him down at will.
He slammed his head on the mat as well, badly at one point. But he got 4 slams in. Yeah. So this is like pick up and slam. And he got cut.
Yeah, and it was weird because I think it happened further in the for another fight.
I don't think he even caught him with elbows. I think he just hit his head on the
mat.
It
was weird, but yeah, he got cut and the ref stopped it, but I don't think it was above the eye as well. The commentators were speaking about it being just to the side of the head and trickling down, but the ref stopped the fight, and it was a shame because the guy was clearly winning up until that point.
And it's something that happened all throughout the night as well with these cuts, which I didn't really enjoy.
Yeah, Cage Rage for some reason putting an emphasis on not wanting their fighters to bleed.
And maybe this is because it was the early days in MMA and they wanted to maybe try and legitimise the sport. Because if you heard the commentators, they were very, very adamant about getting the sport popular over here.
Yeah, it could very well be, but obviously we don't know what would have happened further in the fight. There's still another 2 rounds to go, but tough for Abdul Mohammed to not have been able to continue in that fight. That he was clearly winning it.
And after looking this up, I looked up Abdul Mohammed and Sami Beric. If you look at Sami Beric, he came out on top. What do you think his record ended up as?
Well, I knew that it was 3-3 going into the fight because I noted that down. But let's go 4-7.
14 wins.
Okay.
And 36 losses.
Goodness gracious. Tai Chi is definitely not a fighting martial art. Whoever's telling you to do Tai Chi before you go into MMA needs to fuck off right now.
Right. And then we got Abdul Mohammed. Give me his record.
Wow, if it's anything close. Let's go 13-20.
19-8. So he actually had a decent MMA record. And here's a little bit of a trivia game. Give me the English opponent who is now in the UFC that he beat. Which is a lightweight. So any person. Lightweight English.
You have me so stumped. I can't think of a single lightweight English fighter.
He beat Ross Pearson.
Wow.
Yeah. He actually had a decent MMA career.
Yeah, that's not a bad. That's not a bad 19-8. That's not a bad record. I mean, he showed that he was better than Sami Beric, who quite clearly should not have been fighting MMA.
But yeah, I thought he was really unlucky.
100%.
Yeah, and Mohammed seemed to go on to have a decent MMA record.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't remember him other than
neither
before
do
watching this. So.
I didn't even know he beat Ross Pearce until looking it up on Sherlock.
There we go.
Next fight then, we had Alex Reed taking on Tulio Palhares.
The Reedinator.
Alex Reed, wow. I put cool. Alex Reed, he married Katie Price, divorced her, and yeah. Alex Reed had a really fun fight with Tom King Kong Watson, which was probably the biggest English MMA fight at the time. It was a crazy fight. I remember it. I think I was like 9 at the time, and I remember it still now.
Fair enough.
Probably shouldn't have been watching MMA at that point, but yeah, it was a really, really fun fight. But Alex Reed going into this one, he looked like he had a bit of potential.
Yeah, I mean, obviously now he's probably a little bit more well known for, like you said.
Well, I saw him fight on that Bellator UK card, Daly versus Lima.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not great?
No, he lost 30-26.
Okay. So yeah, the man probably a little bit more well known for being Katie Price's husband. Those of you that
having a reality TV show.
Katie Price is essentially someone that's famous for being a reality TV star, like a boot.
She was a page 3 model essentially.
Is that what she did? I didn't know why she was famous. Sure. She was.
I'm essentially look it up now as you talk.
Essentially, the UK's answer to Kim Kardashian, but nowhere near as popular or as famous as Kim Kardashian is. Not even. I mean, if we're rating out of 10, if Kim's a 10, then she's probably like a 1 in terms of notoriety and things like that. But I think you might be right in that she's a page 3 model or something like that, or a model in. She was married to Peter Andre, wasn't she? Isn't that why she's famous?
Is it because she went on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here as a model and then got with him?
There we go. Completely off topic.
Right, it's here.
But there we go.
It's here. I believe she started out as a page 3 girl.
Okay.
Before she had implants, when she was a fairly attractive young woman. Then she made it to the jungle, married Peter Andre.
There we go.
And then they got a reality TV show, divorced him, married Alex Reed. He got a reality TV show, Alex Reed, This Is My Fight, I think it was called. Don't know what it was.
Literally
he got injured.
Couldn't care less about that.
He got injured before the King Kong Watson fight, which caused Watson to go on an absolute rampage. Then he fought Watson again, in which was one of the biggest MMA fights in British history. Bang, that's it.
There we go. But yeah, the guy didn't look terrible in the fight.
No, so in the little talking bits beforehand, Alex Reed said he wants to be in the UFC, Pride, wherever.
Yeah, quite clearly did not want to be at Cage Rage. Poor Cage Rage.
I mean, they booked him, and yeah. But at this point, he was 7-1 in his career. No, he'd only lost to who we saw later on, Mark Weyer. He
was a guy that they were speaking about as being one of these big UK prospects, and it's tough because obviously we joke about it now into what he's become. But yeah, like you said, at one point, a genuine prospect for British MMA.
Yeah, his only loss at this point was the fight previous to Mark Weyer, who, as we know, Mark Weyer is a British MMA pioneer. So, you know, fair enough. They keep going on about this bloke who he's fighting. He used to be in the UFC, and I didn't believe him for 1 second. So I went ahead and I did some more research.
Okay.
So his overall record when this man retired was 4-17.
Wow.
And he fought at UFC 17.5 in Brazil. So they kept going, he's an undefeated UFC fighter. So he finished his career 1-0.
So I think they mentioned it that he fought at some Brazil tournament or something like that.
The Brazil tournament winner. No, he fought once.
Doesn't
at
really
UFC
count.
17.5.
Doesn't really count. But when you're Cage Rage, a slightly unknown organisation that wants to make.
At this point, I thought Cage Rage got a bit of attraction in the UK.
Again, in the UK, if we're talking any sort of mainstream popularity. I mean,
well, it's the same as Cage Warriors now. Cage Warriors is a draw over here, but they're not in the world.
I think Cage Warriors are much more important and much bigger than Cage Rage ever was. If we'll be honest, I think it helps that they're on. I think it probably helps that they're on Fight Pass and stuff like that. And Cage Rage didn't have any platforms like that. But yeah,
I think at this point was the Dark Ages of MMA as well. Yeah. So it didn't really help. Well, I say Dark Ages for over here.
People, any time that you could mention the UFC, they wanted to mention the UFC. I think that's all it was. Can't really say that he was a UFC vet, but you can say that he was undefeated because he was.
Yes. Interesting though, they didn't really mention Pride as much. They mentioned UFC.
Yeah.
They didn't really mention Pride, despite Pride being around. I think it was because they had a bit of a working agreement with the UFC. Obviously, sending through fighters over. Yeah.
There we go.
But yeah, Alex Reed. I said Palhares got him down with a takedown. Then Reed just gets a triangle in straight away. He just taps him out.
Straight. really interesting. And I saw it and I put, Alex Reed is not a terrible fighter at this point.
So this was prime Alex Reed. This was just before his downfall. So he was 7-1 after winning this fight. What do you think his end record ended up as?
Ooh, another guessing game. Let's go 10-12.
10-10-1. So you were close.
I was close.
10-10-1 after having a career at 7-1 at one point.
Quite clearly met Jordan and it fucked him up.
Yeah, it really did. I think, genuinely think it
exactly.
did.
I mean, he probably tasted fame and then realised that he'd prefer being a reality TV star as opposed to getting punched in the face for a living.
And he even went on future shows like Big Brother. I think he went on as well. Yeah, good. Alex Reed should have stuck to the fighting and not the cameras. I mean, that is something that Watson mentioned in that fight. And I genuinely think we should watch that BAMMA event because that was a mental event.
Why not?
But hey, we've got a few more events lined up first. But yeah, afterwards, I really enjoyed the interview. They started talking about how Alex Reed had sloppy seconds of the interviewer.
Oh, goodness. I mean, awkward. I think his girlfriend was in the,
and his
crowd as well.
And he was going, "Don't worry, babe, it was a long time ago."
Oh, goodness. Poor girl. And awkward moment. I don't know what else to say about it. The announcer just clearly wanted to get one over a fighter, which is a bad idea because.
And then he was going, "Whoa,
yeah,
sorry, mate."
You can say all you want about Alex Reed not being a great fighter. I mean, you could probably quite easily take out that guy if we're being honest. So it is what it is, but fun to watch.
Alex Reed, 7-1 prospect at this point. Next fight, then we saw Paul Daly take on Jess Liardon, both UFC veterans. Yeah. The trash talk
in the future, anyways,
was so cringy. The trash talk.
I had put almost at the beginning of, almost before every single fight, I'd put on my notes, these pre-fight promos are fucking disgusting because they were awful. They had these stale characters all try and talk before the fights and it just never came off good.
One of my favourite ones was Bisping's one because he didn't try any trash talk. He just went, yeah, I don't care, I'm here to win.
But Bisping has shown that he could do the trash talk. The rest of these guys really couldn't.
Yeah, this Jess Liardon guy, he actually fought 5 times in the UFC.
Okay.
He finished with a 2-3 record, so he didn't do too bad in the UFC. He actually holds a win over Dennis Siver.
Dennis Siver, somewhat named, probably more known to the casuals as the guy that got beat by Conor in Dublin, I think it was, wasn't it?
But to hardcore MMA fans, he's known as the fucking spinning kick master.
There we go.
But yeah, Jess Liardon versus Paul Daly. What do you think?
Interesting fight. Paul Daly obviously showing that he's a decent prospect at this point because he was and looked really good in the fight. I think if I remember it correctly, got caught in a couple of submission attempts, if I remember correctly, a couple of arm bars I think it was, and did a good job in slamming him at one point, lifting him up off the ground as he held his hand and then slamming back to the floor.
It was a really weak slam, but
I mean a slam's a slam nonetheless. You have to lift the man with basically the power of your forearm and biceps and stuff like that. So Paul Daly showing why he became a future UFC fighter, and obviously probably could have done better things there before the controversy that saw him leave.
Liaudin was from Pancras, London, if I remember correctly as well. He had a kickboxing record of 19-3 as well. So he fought in kickboxing and MMA. Let's have another guessing game. What do you think he finished his MMA career with?
Oh goodness!
So I remember he fought inside the UFC, but granted, the last guy was 4-17 and he fought in the UFC.
Okay. So, what was his record going into the fight?
Going into this fight,
or do you not have it?
I can find it. Going into this fight, he was 7-5. Obviously, losing to Daly, so he finished 7-6.
Okay, 7-6. Let's go. I think he wins probably 2 more fights.
Okay.
So let's go 9-12.
He actually finished his career 20-11. And rode a 6-fight win streak at the end of his career. I'm
just assuming that all these people do trash, if I'm being honest at this point.
Obviously, we know Paul Daly, so we won't go into his record and things, but obviously Daly went on to be a star in the future.
Yeah.
Somewhat of a household name for UK MMA fans.
100%.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Daly.
He's a fun guy, and the fight itself wasn't too bad.
He's still fighting now, for crying out loud.
But the way the fight was finished was weird to me as well.
Again, another ref stoppage because of a cut. I'm pretty sure.
It a broken nose? Yeah. Which was even weirder to me because noses get broken all the time in fights, and unless the fighter can't fight because they can't breathe or something like that, it was really, really odd.
They mentioned after the fight that he had broken his nose in his previous fight and hadn't had enough time to get it fixed.
Okay.
So
for sure, get it fixed before the next fight.
And he went and fought, and well,
quite clearly, you don't do
really broke his nose. But yeah, a young frog-looking Paul Daly got the win.
Yeah, Paul Daly again with some after the fact, with some bad promo on himself.
I am the best in the world,
and now they're gonna know
it.
I mean, there's not much that you can say about that. It's a little bit tough to call yourself the best in the world when you're fighting in cage rage. Is all I can say.
Daly, though, obviously, as we all know, went on to fight in the UFC, finished with a 2-1 record, the infamous punch after the bell. And that was it.
Yeah, like we said, a decent showing for Paul Daly.
Next fight was Robbie Olivier taking on Dave Elliott in a featherweight fight. Again, I have no idea who these guys were. I thought Elliott's name was Stinky at first, his nickname. But it was Speedy. It was just how he sounded. So I was like, what? He's Stinky. Damn.
Again, those pre-fight promos were friggin' awful. I think at one point he did the when you lick your fingers and pretend to turn off the candle. The thing. He did that. He goes, I'm going to extinguish your flame. And I almost cried. I was so badly hurt. Like, my heart genuinely felt a sharp pain in it. I was like, goodness, what is this guy doing? It was awful.
Robbie Oliver, though, is actually a decent MMA fighter.
Okay.
He is a bit of a British pioneer, obviously from the Dark Ages, as we keep saying. Yeah. But yeah, he was all right. So both of them were unbeaten in cage rage going into this fight. As they mentioned, I think Oliver was 2-0 and Elliott was 3-0, and it was a quick fight.
Yeah. It was a weird fight. Again, not weird in the sense that it was stopped in a weird way. Weird in the sense that he stunned him with a slam.
And
I think
he was like
Dave. Yeah, Dave tried to pull guard. I think it was got slammed in the process instead of being able to pull guard, and then was dazed. Robbie threw a few ground and pound strikes. I think it was something like that, and then the ref stops the fight because of a TKO. I suppose it would be called. It was a really weird lead up to the fight in that I've not seen someone get slammed like that for pulling guard before.
Yeah, so it was really weird. 50 seconds.
Yeah.
Just beat him. TKO'd him.
Not much else you can say about the fight. It was one of those genuinely weird occurrences.
Right. Are you ready to guess the records?
Okay, go on.
Right, so we got both of them. We got Robbie Olivier. Obviously, I said he was a bit of a decent fighter towards the end.
Yeah.
What do you think he finished his career with?
Let's go 13-7.
20-10-1.
20-10-1, wow.
Yep, he actually fought Pat Karan as well at one point in his career.
I am awful at these.
Obviously, Pat Karan was a future Bellator featherweight champion, so yeah, he had a decent career. The next one, Dave Elliott. What do you think?
Oh, Dave Elliott record. I thought you were moving on to the next fight. Oh, let's go 10-13.
Close. You got the wins right.
Okay.
10-9 he finished.
Wow.
So, you know, he did alright towards the end.
I am not giving these guys any credit, unfortunately.
Right, next fight then. We're going to go ahead and crack into it. It is Sol Gilbert taking on Ridas Vaivada. So apparently this guy was a replacement. Vaivada was a replacement for someone who got in a car crash a week before the fight.
Poor guy.
Like, what?
Poor guy. We actually saw in that Pride card a few weeks ago someone got into a car crash and managed to fight, so
he got run over by a bus or something.
There we go.
Crazy. Jason Ireland.
Another first round finish.
Again? We haven't actually made it to the second round yet.
All the fights were first round finishes other than that Bisping fight, I think. But the event went on for 2.5 hours. How? They were all first round finishes. How did it go on for 2.5 hours?
The build up. Do you know what? I didn't have a problem with the card at all. It flowed for me.
It did. It genuinely did. Like when you were watching it, because I only realised it was 2.5 hours after the fact. Yeah. When I finished watching it and saw that it was 2.5 hours, and I was like, how was that 2.5 hours? Like all these fights finished really early, and I just didn't pay attention to the time. But anyway, the Sol Gilbert, Ridas Vaivada.
Gilbert was a fan favourite going into this one. As you could tell, there was a lot of noise when he come out, and he was a stand-up fighter. Yeah,
Sol gets taken down early though, if I remember correctly. Oh, I don't need to remember, I've got some notes. He gets taken down early. Ridas is in back mount, searches for the neck, transitions to the armbar. But they eventually get Sol stood up, and then Sol catches him and finishes him.
He like died, Ridas. Ridas got knocked out and flew across the octagon. He flew. He looked like he got shot in the crowd. Well, like the way he spun and just hit the canvas.
It's a tough one. Like you said, Sol being a stand-up guy, once he got stood up, he did what he needs to do and finished the fight.
Yeah, 3 minutes 42 with the knockout for Sol Gilbert. Afterwards, a few quotes. Big up my Mrs. Donna was one that made me laugh. I wouldn't be able to do it without all these. Yeah, I thought it was I enjoyed the afterwards.
Instead
bits.
of calling out someone for having sloppy seconds, he bigged up his missus, which is nice to see.
Well done, Sol. The next fight then was the first fight actually on the quote main card.
Yeah.
We saw a lightweight title fight between Jean Silva and Sammy Schiavo. So Silva is the champ going into this fight. Schiavo though does not care. He just wants a fucking fight.
I know, it was really weird. He goes, win or lose. No, he goes, I want to beat you. I don't care. Win or lose. I want to fight. Or something like that, which was really sort of counterintuitive.
And Silva as well started snorting.
Oh my goodness! I put that there. I fucking hate these pre-fight interviews. He's growling at him.
So yeah,
he curled his lip and growled at the camera. In what universe is that going to make me want to watch your fights? It was unbelievable. It was hilarious to watch. Absolutely hilarious to watch.
Out of these two guys, which one do you think made it to the UFC?
Let's go, Jean Silva.
No, Sammy Schiavo.
I was going to guess him.
I actually remember Sammy Schiavo.
The name sounded familiar, but I thought he lost, so he can't be that good.
He got beat by Clay Guida.
Okay.
So he actually had a UFC fight. Got beat by Clay Guida. I think he ended Norton 2 in the UFC. And that was his last fights in his MMA career. Wow. But these guys fought 2 years ago as well. Silva won the fight. I just can't stop getting over the snorting bit.
Isn't Silva then 3? Because didn't Silva win all of these fights?
Yeah.
So he's 3-0 against the guy.
Yeah, no. So they fought once 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they fought again.
Okay.
So.
Oh, you mean before this fight? Okay, I thought you meant he fought 2 years ago, as in literally 2 years ago. In the past. I was like, why would they make a third fight of this?
So Silva actually went on to do big things. He headlined a Pride event.
Wow.
Jean Silva fought Takanori Gomi in Pride at Bushido 7, I think it was.
Can't imagine he won that.
Nope, he didn't win, but he still main evented a Pride
100%.
event.
I mean, that's not a small feat to main event a Pride event. Probably got paid a decent amount of money for that as well.
During this fight, I didn't have 100% attention on it. I was actually making my bed at the same time, changing the sheets. So I didn't have 100%. I thought one of the guys was faking groin shots. I think it was Jean Silva at one point.
Yeah, I think they sort of either brushed past him or didn't quite connect with him, and he was definitely acting like a little bit of a baby. And
then I just looked up from changing the pillows, I think it was, and Jean Silva tapped him out of a triangle.
Yeah. I had it. They basically gets taken down. Jean gets the takedown and is looking for a choke. Doesn't manifest in the way that he wants it. I think he was looking for a guillotine or something like that. Eventually, positions change and he gets the triangle and taps. What's the other guy's name? Sammy Schiavo.
Yeah, tapped him out. So fair enough. I genuinely started crying though at one point. England legend Darius Vassell gave out a trophy. Darius Vassell was at the event. What?
Speaking of those trophies, I thought it was really good. Everyone got a trophy.
Yeah, give it up for the runner-up.
Everyone got a trophy, and you with these horrible sort of plasticky trophies that everyone got the exact same. Everyone got the exact same thing, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" This reminds me of playing football when I was like 11. We'd go to a tournament and lose all our games and still get a medal and a trophy for fucking appearing.
It's when they'd be like, "Give it up for your runner-up."
Oh my goodness! As if anyone cared. Barely cared for the winners most of the time. The crowd was so empty, but definitely not for the runners.
Darius Vassell gave a trophy out. What the hell? Former Man City, Aston Villa striker. Darius Vassell. It just, I couldn't get over it.
MMA crossing into the mainstream.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting, and then we're like, England international Darius Vassell. He played like once for England.
Again, if you can call someone undefeated in the UFC because they fought once, you can say England international because he played once.
David Nugent, England international.
There we go.
Next up was probably one of the better fights of the evening due to name quality. We had Renato Babalu Sobral making his second appearance on the MMA Flashback, second in a row as well. He took on Cyril the Snake Diabate at light heavyweight. I just put, whoa, this is actually like a fight with decent names.
Yeah, 100%.
Diabate was a long-time UFC vet, and Sobral I thought was criminally underrated. It's actually a really good fight.
It was, I thought, up until this point, obviously with the fights being so short, you can't really say the quality was bad because it were short fights. But it was the first fight where I saw some, this and the next fight, some decent quality, some genuinely decent quality, and it was fun to watch. Although, again, didn't last very long.
No, I've seen Cyril Diabate fight before. I saw him get ninja choked by Latifi. Ninja choked. What? Yep. But yeah, happy to see Babalu again. Obviously, I mentioned last time, one of my more underrated fighters. Babalu took him down. He was inside control, and he just tapped him from there, didn't he?
Yeah, basically.
Guillotine for Babalu. As Diabate went to get up, it was a good sub by Babalu, and gets the tap in another round 1 finish.
Yeah.
I put, holy shit, surely this has got to be some sort of world record for round 1 finishes. We genuinely saw every fight up to this point was a round 1 finish. It was
really, really interesting to watch. And again, like I noted, it was crazy how long the event went for, considering the fact that it was 1 round finishes and only 1 round finishes up until this point.
But yeah, Renato Sobral won in 3 minutes 38, and one of the more stranger things, he won a samurai sword.
Okay.
Did you see this bit?
I did not watch. I sort of clicked off after the fight. Won a samurai sword. Wow.
Yeah, he won a samurai sword. I was really confused.
Did they reference as to why he deserved the samurai sword?
I think instead of a trophy, he got the samurai sword instead.
I mean, that samurai sword, I mean, he was probably one of the bigger names in terms of people fighting at this card. So they probably didn't want to give him the cheap-ass Powerland trophy. Instead, give him a samurai sword.
Yeah, they just gave him a samurai sword. It was like, okay.
Fair enough. I suppose martial arts, samurais... There's like a mild connection there, ever so slightly.
So this next fight was the light heavyweight title fight. We saw Michael the Count Bisping take on Mark the Beast Epstein. Obviously Bisping's one of the goats of MMA.
Don't need to explain who Bisping is.
But
I hope you don't need to explain who Bisping is.
Mark Epstein, interesting guy. Lee Murray, who we would see later on in the event for controversial reasons. I'm going to do a little life retrospective on Lee Murray as well when we get to it. He sold crack cocaine with Lee Murray.
Wow.
Lee Murray, you'll understand when I do a little bit of a retrospective of him later on. Yeah, but this guy sold crack cocaine on the streets with Murray.
This Mark Epstein guy looked like a tough guy. He spoke like...
He looked like a bouncer, didn't he?
He looked, exactly. He looked like one of those guys that you'll see coming out of the chip shop with like a tracksuit bottoms and just staring you down and threatening to headbutt you 24/7 or some shit like that.
But they'd fought before. Bisping came out on top. Obviously, Epstein was the champ before this.
Yeah.
What? But yeah, Bisping beat him in their first fight. And Epstein, in his little bit beforehand, said, Mike the Count, nah, you'll be out for the count.
So cringy, man. Absolutely. This is what I'm saying. It's an example like of these MMA fighters that just are not clever. Saying Mike the Count, you're out for the count, is something that a child would say. Like, that's not a clever thing to come up with. Now, hopefully he never ever sees this, because the man would murder him in an instant.
From what I know about him and Murray, I genuinely hope they never ever hear this, because I don't want to die.
There we go.
Obviously, I don't think Murray's going to be around at any point due to what I will explain later on. But yeah, the other guy was built like Ilia Latifi. I thought.
Really, really. It was weird that he was a 205 pounder, because he definitely didn't look like a 205 pounder. He looked massive. Yeah.
It was really weird. But yeah, the first round was really fun. They were just standing and training.
Yeah, Michael. I just felt from the offset Michael Bisping was clearly the better fighter.
I thought the first half of the round was more of a brawl, and then from there on it was just Bisping against the punch bag.
Basically, Bisping was punching, then moving back, not getting hit. I mean, I don't know, I can't imagine that they had fight stats and stuff like that for that, but Bisping clearly dominating in every single round. Just with the amount of strikes that he was hitting him with, it was crazy. So I think he ends the first round in
full mount.
Full mount.
Oh no, he got sweeped.
Yeah.
So Bisping rocked him and dropped him at this point, and I thought the ref should have stopped it because he was hammering 100%. Him down. But then he got sweeped. Like, what?
Yeah.
This guy knew how to sweep.
Clearly more than just a tough guy. So interesting end to the first round. The first round was but round 2, in my opinion, was just
I had it as a 10-8.
Domination. I mean, it would be tough to give it as anything. I don't know how common 10-8s were back then, but it'd be tough to give it as anything else.
So I gave it the first round 10-9 to Bisping.
Yeah.
I said it could have easily been a 10-8, but because he swept him at the end and that ended out on top, you can't give it.
Judges get confused, as we mentioned before. Second round easily 10-8. It just
I wrote in capital letters though. We finally get to see a second round.
Yeah.
I was so ecstatic. I never thought I'd want to see a second round this badly.
But like we said, dominant round. Then round 3, just when you thought that maybe we'll see the full fight, we'll see a whole fight finally, Bisping finishes him.
No, he finished in round 3, not round 2.
Round 3, the third round.
I thought we were going to go on about round 2.
But we can carry on talking about round 2.
Bisping just landed a lot of shit.
Basically, he was doing a real good job of hitting and not getting hit.
Just, again, 10-8, I don't think the other guy landed any punches. Bisping's been in control the whole fight. 100%. Third round, we are blessed.
There we go.
Only 3 rounds for a title fight, which I thought was weird. Obviously, the Lee Murray-Anderson Silva fight was 3 rounds as well, which I've seen about 100 times, so I probably should have expected that. Bisping was all over him with technical striking, but he started to trash talk.
Yeah.
And Epstein just beat the shit out of his legs.
100%. You could see, I mean, the first one hit, you could see Bisping didn't like it very much. Then the second one hit, and it was just that. He was limping for basically the rest of that fight.
It was weird.
100%. Yeah, it was odd. One of those examples of trash talk not quite working the way you want it to.
And then Bisping caught him with a clean right hand.
Yeah.
And he was out cold.
Just set him. I mean, the knockout itself was crazy. The way he just sort of tumbled over like a tree. He just went backwards and just fell face first. It was.
I thought he was going to go through the cage.
I mean, the guy was massive. It would not have surprised me if he did just go through the cage.
It's like hole in the wall, remember hole in the wall? Ring on the wall. You could see him on there.
Oh my goodness! Just an Epstein marked hole in the cage. But yeah, Bisping wins via KO.
4 minutes 43. Defends the lightweight belt, light heavyweight belt.
Not a single fight goes the distance. All of them get finished within the distance. Only one went past one round.
Mark Epstein. Guess the record.
Ooh. I think that Mark Epstein probably ended with a winning record.
Yes,
of,
correct.
Let's say 14-7.
14-11.
Okay.
Very close.
Okay.
He actually holds a win over Tom King Kong Watson, who I was bigging up massively.
Yeah, earlier.
Granted, this is only in 2007, so Watson wasn't megally into his career, but still holds a win over him. Some bloke from Red Dwarf gives Bisping the belt. I was like, okay,
cool. Did you not remember that show?
Yeah, I remember the show, but I thought, okay.
Wouldn't have expected to see someone from Red Dwarf on
No, it was weird.
But either way.
After the fight, they called in James Zikic, which I really wanted to see. Bisping versus Zikic. Zikic obviously is a well-known prospect in British MMA. Never really fulfilled the potential, but I really wanted to see it happen. But then I know it never happened, so I didn't really get too hyped. I was like, oh.
There we go.
It's the same with the fight later on.
It's weird watching these fights back because you want to like go back and say, what if this fight happens and this fight happens? But you realise that none of these fights are ever going to happen because they would have already happened.
Yeah. It's just one of them things. Like, we could have seen James Zikic versus Bisping, but we never did.
Exactly.
Moving into our co-main event of the evening, then we had a middleweight contest between UFC veterans. We had Matt the Law Lindland taking on a British pioneer of MMA, Mark Weir. Cool. Lindland versus Weir. 2 UFC veterans. Yeah. Fun fight. Obviously, it wasn't that appealing, the actual fight, but the concept of it is a fun fight. We saw classic Matt Lindland during this fight. It was takedowns, there was grappling, but it was Mark Weir who actually initiated the takedown, didn't he?
Yeah.
Weir was fantastic with his takedown defence, but just as I wrote that, Lindland got the takedown, and then we saw a classic Matt Lindland fight from here. He was catching him with elbows and forearms. And there was a big cut just next to the eye of Mark Weir. Livio, what happened?
So he calls out...
I know, so they stopped the fight.
Oh, they stopped the fight first of all, yeah. Doctor stoppage.
Round 1, I understand why they stopped this one because it was really deep.
Not so much
next to his eye.
Not so much an issue with this one as opposed to the other ones.
But post-fight, I very much enjoyed this.
Yeah, it was nice to see. It was the first time that we'd seen someone do a real good call-out. And Matt Lindland called out Lee Murray, which was odd.
Well, we saw Bisping call out Zikic in the one beforehand, which was interesting. But this one, Wow.
Crazy. Lee Murray walks into the cage, or somehow gets into the cage.
Because Matt Lindland asks him, he was like, what is this clown wearing?
And then they have a nice little back and forth. Lee Murray doing the typical child thing. And
you're ugly, you're pussy, you're pussy.
You're ugly pussy.
Look at you, monkey, baldy, get a wig.
And then commented his cauliflower ears and just went in on the man. It was really, really fun to watch.
Did you get a wig as well?
Yeah, I know. It's just...
And then Matt Linden's like, my girlfriend or my wife loves banging these ears.
She loves grabbing onto these ears. It's not great trash talk. As a matter of fact, it's probably bad trash talk.
Yes.
But it's fun to watch nonetheless. These two guys just get in there and almost fucking fight after one of them's already had a fight.
Yeah, and it was funny because the crowd was actually on Matt Lindland's side. Yeah. And then Lee Murray starts to throw some sort of liquid on him. And then just put, what the fuck happened? Ha ha ha.
Odd one. They break it up in the end.
Yeah.
Matt Lindland with a samurai sword though.
Could have fucking took his head off.
So it could have been worse than it was.
But I don't think he would have taken his head off if he knew who Lee Murray was. So as I promised, I was going to do a retrospective on Lee Murray. So should I go ahead and get into this one?
Let's
right.
Give it a go.
So Lightning Lee Murray, someone who is very infamous with MMA fans. Well, hardcore MMA fans all over the globe. A man who fought Anderson Silva in Cage Rage for the middleweight championship. But criminal acts got in his way of his career.
Yes.
Lee Murray was the only fighter that Dana White has gone on record and said that he was genuinely scared of. He said he was a scary son of a bitch, and I don't mean fighter-wise. His early life, it's been documented that his father was quite abusive.
Mm.
And then Murray struck back and knocked his father clean out. From there on, he got into trouble and got into drug dealing. As we mentioned before, with Mark Epstein, he was friends with him growing up. And they were actually on the streets dealing crack cocaine. This is all based on stories and things. And Lee Murray ended up taking over the majority of the drug scene in London.
Wow.
So think of London and think of the drug scene in London.
Yes.
And think of that Lee Murray was basically in charge of it. He had a street fight with the leaders at the time at a train station and took them on and just... They had a gang war or some shit. And then... Yeah...
For control of
the drugs underground scene.
Wow. I mean, probably not something you want to do against a trained MMA fighter, but sure.
Yeah, definitely not.
Let's give our drugs on whoever wins.
But yeah, then Lee Murray got into MMA. He actually was an alright MMA fighter. You know, he travelled to Iowa and he trained with the Militich team, Militich fighting system. He got into a few fights here and there, fought Anderson Silva. But what Murray is more infamous for is his life outside the octagon. So he had a street brawl when the UFC came over to London at UFC 38, July 2002. And Matt Hughes, Pat Militich can attest to this and have claimed to have seen the whole thing. Chuck Liddell doesn't agree with it though. He says he saw it and it was a different side of a story.
Okay. But
Lightning Lee Murray, according to multiple sources, knocked out the then UFC light heavyweight champion, Tito Ortiz. They got into a street fight in a nightclub, and Pat Militich, during his interview with ESPN, said that he hit him, and he just kept hitting him on the floor, and they were stomping him. Him, Hughes, and Militich were all involved in this.
Okay. They were all stomping...
Tito. This is from what I've heard. And Pat Militich said that he saw he was stomping him, and then obviously the police came along and broke it all up. Tito Ortiz's side of the story was a little bit different. Ortiz says that he saw Murray. Murray hit him. He then started to run away, so Ortiz went after him. Murray then stopped, planted his feet, punched Ortiz. Ortiz says he didn't get knocked out. He said he got knocked down and then gathered himself. And then he says that they started to brawl before police broke it up. Chuck Liddell says that he wasn't in a state of unconsciousness. but that he was
close
rocked,
to,
but
yeah.
he was unconscious. So Lee Murray, wow. After his UFC fight as well, with Jorge Rivera at the middleweight division, called out Tito Ortiz, and Ortiz was in the crowd, saying that he'd knocked him out once before and he would do it again.
There we go.
Ortiz was then in the crowd telling him to come on. And I'm pretty Lee Murray was scheduled for a fight against Patrick Cote on the UFC 52 card that we saw, where Cote fought at light heavyweight against Joe Dawkinson, and that was meant to be the setup fight for him and Ortiz, but he had to pull out due to visa issues because of a criminal record. Now, in 2005, September the 28th, Murray was also hospitalised because he was stabbed in a brawl during a birthday party for his page-free girlfriend's party.
Okay.
He suffered a punctured lung and a severed artery. According to the doctor who performed the life-saving surgery on Murray, he was resuscitated 4 times during the operation.
Wow.
And that saved his life. Lee Murray went on to thank the doctor, but he said no, they should have thanked the nurses that brung 5 pints of blood for him. Yes.
Goodness gracious.
And it's not just that where it ends.
What a life.
In 2006, on June the 25th, in a joint operation with Moroccan police, Murray was arrested at a shopping centre. In 2006, the Kent police confirmed that Murray's arrest in Morocco. It stated that over 30 people had been arrested with the conjunction with the arrest. Essentially, Lee Murray was jailed for £53 million worth of crime in a Moroccan court in 2010. A Kent policeman said that Murray was served 10 years of jail in Morocco for his involvement. The sentence was then extended on the 30th of November 2010 to 25 years in prison. Wow. Not a UK prison, a Moroccan prison.
Lee Murray's had a tough go of it then. Well, maybe not tough go of it because it's all by his own
what
doing.
He did.
It's all by his own doing, but wow.
Yes.
Not doing much to help the notion that MMA guys are slightly dim-witted.
One of his accomplishments actually recently got out of jail in 2017.
Okay.
For good behaviour, and Murray believes that he could potentially have the same, and he wants to come out and fight MMA again. He called out Alex Reed from prison.
I do not want to watch that fight even a little bit. I mean, Mike Tyson came out of prison and looked really good.
Could you imagine? Yeah, but Lee Murray's been training with people in prison. Could you imagine the Lee Murray Alex Reed fight?
I do not want to watch
in
that
2018.
Fight. I do not want to watch that fight. Do you know who would make that fight happen?
Bellator.
Bellator would make that fight happen.
Bellator 200.
If they were both out, if Lee Murray was out of prison right now, that would be a Bellator 200 main card fight.
Get Aaron Chalmers off the card.
100%.
Lee Murray, Alex
Reed.
Oh my
goodness.
But yeah, that is my little retrospective on Lee Murray. You didn't know too much about Murray before, did you?
No, I genuinely didn't. I think I'd watched a documentary about this former MMA fighter that had done this like 53 million heist or some shit. But I didn't know much about him.
That was him.
Wow. That is unbelievable. That is...
And I mean, despite all what we talked about, we got to remember, he knocked out Tito Ortiz apparently. Allegedly.
Supposedly.
I believe it.
Yeah?
Because of how many sources have attested to it.
I also don't think it's all that difficult to knock a guy out with like a cheap shot either, to be fair.
Oh no, they were standing one-on-one. I genuinely believe Lee Murray knocked out Tito Ortiz.
Yeah.
But hey, the main event of Cage Rage 9 was Ian Freeman taking on Ryan Robinson for the heavyweight championship. Freeman, a legend of British MMA, he actually beat Frank Mir at that UFC 38 event. Wow. So yeah, this was Freeman's comeback fight. If Freeman never existed, you could say that British MMA might not be here. He is genuinely a legend of the sport. Yeah,
not much else.
He basically put British MMA on the map.
There we go.
I genuinely thought the title belt looked like one of the most shoddiest things I've ever seen in my life. It looked like a dirty mirror had been just placed on a strap.
Wow.
Either way, Freeman gets the takedown after catching the knee. He has the clear strength advantage. He's in complete control. He was hitting him, and then Ryan Robinson tapped to strikes. How did you feel about this fight?
Decent. Ian Freeman obviously showing that why he's a pioneer, why he's a legend. Real good showing from him.
Yeah, you could tell the class difference.
Exactly. I got that with the last 3 fights as well. Like, you could see that there was a class difference in these guys, and it shows in MMA that, again, there's levels to these games. It's a cliche, but sometimes you're just not at the level.
But yeah, Ian Freeman gets the win due to submission, due to strikes in 2 minutes 44. He would go on to relinquish the heavyweight championship, and he would then go on to fight for the light heavyweight belt, not against Bisping. He would lose that, but then Cage Rage had a weird thing where they had a British heavyweight champion and a world champion. So he went on to win the British light heavyweight belt. So, you know,
more belts, more money.
2-weight world champ. That's all I can say.
There we go.
But yeah, overall thoughts on the card then, Livio. How did you find that one?
Decent card. Fun. Not difficult to watch. It was a card that you could sit down and watch for a couple of hours and just kick back and enjoy it, basically. And yeah, it's nice to go back and watch these cards. Didn't age very well, unfortunately.
No, mainly because you could tell it was like, you could see the lines at the bottom, like black and white.
I think at one point the camera genuinely cut out, even though it was a pre-recording or something like that, which is, you know, shouldn't really be happening. But overall, the event itself is fairly decent.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I said Cage Rage was a fun, fast-flowing event, and it was really enjoyable. It's fun to see the pioneers of British MMA in their early days, like Paul Daly, Michael Bisping, and Brad Pickett. Good to see international fighters like Renato Sobrao and Matt Lindland, and then we saw legends like Mark Wyatt and Ian Freeman. So I thought it was really enjoyable. The most memorable moment of the event for me was probably that Lee Murray and Matt Lindland scuffle. It was just crazy to see them go at it. I really, really wanted to see that fight after watching that, but obviously it never came to fruition. Yeah, best fight of the night in my opinion, Bisping.
100%. 100%.
Technical class, and
Bisping showing why he went on to become a UFC champ.
And we even saw Epstein come back at one point. So
there we go.
Yeah,
fun little 3-round, not quite war, but not quite dull show either.
Fun little fight.
Fun little fight.
So that does it then for Cage Rage 9. That's this week's Flashback MMA card done for you guys. Livio, what is our next event?
Our next event, Strikeforce Daly versus Diaz, if I'm not wrong. Fun one to watch. Haven't watched many Strikeforce events.
No?
No, haven't watched many Strikeforce. Strikeforce was about the time that I got into MMA.
Oh, okay, so around that 2010 era, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. People speak of it very, very fondly. So should be a bit of an enjoyable one for me.
Yeah, I have to say that main event was genuinely one of the best fights of the year. At that point, it was around. But if you look at the names that we're going to be watching, we're going to be watching Shinya Aoki.
Wow.
We're going to be watching Gegard Mousasi, Keith Jardine, Gilbert Melendez, Tetsuya Kawajiri, Nick Diaz, Paul Daly, and if we choose to watch some of the prelims, Saad Awad is on there. And that's about it. The prelims aren't really that stacked.
But that main card, though.
Yeah, that main card is very good. I don't think I'm going to be watching the prelims for that one.
It'll be a tough one. But yeah, I mean, the main card seems decent.
Yeah, very, very stacked main card, to say the least. So that does it for the MMA Flashback card. Go ahead and crack into our predictions. So for this week, there's no UFC on. So we're unable to do any predictions for the UFC. So Livio, what are we going to be doing predictions on?
We're picking or making our fight picks for Bellator 198, headlined by Frank Mir and Fedor Emelianenko. A matchup maybe 10 years too late.
Yeah, I'm still looking forward to it.
I am somewhat as well, just because it brings finality to this ongoing debate that obviously Frank Mir was the UFC champ for a while, and Fedor was
the Pride champ.
And he was considered for many the GOAT of MMA, and Frank always thought that he had it in him to beat him. So it'd be interesting to finally get a closure on that saga. Yeah,
I think it's going to be a really enjoyable fight, despite their ages and stuff. It's just going to be fun to watch. At the end of the day, it's still Fedor Emelianenko, and it's still Frank Mir. So, you know, Mir in his last fight, granted he got beat by Hunt, but before that, looked really good.
Yeah.
Beat Todd Duffy, beaten a few other fighters, can't remember off the top of my head. But I remember that Todd Duffy fight very well. But yeah, the main card is going to kick off with everyone's favourite 0-0 fighter, Dylan Dennis. He is going to be taking on Kyle Walker, not the Man City right back. Yeah.
Just in case you thought it was.
Dylan Dennis, Conor McGregor's jiu-jitsu coach.
Yeah. obviously we can't really say much about his MMA skills. We know literally nothing about them because they are non-existent. But jiu-jitsu wise, he's meant to be a specialist. He's meant to be amazing.
I mean, he got beat by Jake Shields in his last fight, but I'm not.
So I don't know. I feel like Bellator probably wants to build him up because he's somewhat of a name. I mean, you can't really say he's a name per se because he's not.
But he's known. He's
known mainly because, like you said, he's Connor's jiu-jitsu coach, or not his main coach because his head coach is his jiu-jitsu coach. But he trains with Connor. So
he's at SBG Ireland. Yeah.
So I think that this fight's made for him to win.
Yeah, I'm gonna see him winning round 1. I see him winning by submission round 1.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I think the guy he's facing is like 2-4, 1-4, something like that.
He's 2-3.
2-3, which clearly they're building Dylan Dennis up. And I mean, this is his debut, and he's on the main card, so Bellator doing Bellator shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's expected anyway. Like,
there we go.
Even Baby Slice was fighting negative record people last time, so it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Next fight is Neiman Gracie taking on Javier Torres. Another Gracie name is here. He's won a lot of fights by first round submission, so I'm going to go once again with a first round submission.
I again am going to agree. I don't know much about him, so I picked this purely based on the Gracie name, unfortunately. Because he's a Gracie, I assume first round sub.
First round sub for Neiman Gracie then. The next fight on the card is Rafael Lovato Jr. He is going to be taking on Gerald Harris. Should be a fun fight.
Yeah, I picked Lovato Jr. decision. Again, didn't know much about them, so I just thought, had a quick look at the records and some of their stats. So I picked Lovato Jr.
I'm actually going to go with a Lovato Jr. second round TKO in this one.
Okay.
He's got a lot of first round finishes.
Fair enough.
His last fight went to a decision. But yeah, I just see him getting the win in this one.
Fair enough.
The next fight, we've got Emmanuel Sanchez taking on Sam Sicilia. Interesting, Bellator had Sam Sicilia to have a record of 16-0.
You mentioned this.
But then they changed it back to his 16-8, which he actually has. Yeah, I mean, he's 1-3 in his last few fights. Won his debut against Marcos Galvo in Bellator. Won by decision. Emmanuel Sanchez, everyone knows, 16-3 is his current record. He beat Daniel Strauss in his last fight and is on a 3-fight win streak. I'm going to go with a Emmanuel Sanchez decision on this one.
I agree. Again, didn't know much about these guys, but just looked at records and based on their, like you just said, their streaks and coming up to this fight, it seems like Sanchez is on a bit of a tear. So Sanchez decision.
And the main event of the evening, we have Fedor, the last Emperor, Emelianenko taking on Frank Mir. And what's your prediction? Because I have mine.
I went back and forth a bunch. I think it doesn't end in decision. I think it gets finished. And I picked Frank Mir KO TKO.
Okay, what round?
Do you know what? I genuinely didn't think of round 2.
I'll go with round 1, Frank Mir KO.
I would not be surprised if it was round 1.
Because I'm writing Fedor off because Frank Mir has shown a massive amount of improvement in his boxing. Granted, he hasn't been in a cage for 2 years. Yeah. But I think his boxing skills that he showed beforehand were massively improved.
Yeah, I think he's training at Floyd Mayweather's gym at the moment. I think I saw a couple of videos of him up there at Floyd Mayweather's gym, and
giving Floyd that ground game.
In all fairness, they were interviewing him about a boxing fight, and his prediction, his breakdown of the fight was amazing. He quite clearly showed.
Well, he used to be a WEC commentator.
Yeah, he quite clearly showed, and I think that helps certain people.
Currently commentates as well for ACB.
Yeah.
Or ABC. ACB.
ACB, I think it is.
I remember him on that Barnett versus Matey card.
There we go.
The guy who's Russian but says he's Polish.
That being said, though, it's not a foregone conclusion that Frank Mir is going to win this fight. Like you mentioned, he's been out for 2 years, so it'd be interesting to see how he bounces back from that.
I think Fedor's chin is just completely gone at this point.
Fedor relying more and more on just sort of like hitting you and trying to sleep you now more than he did back in the day.
I mean, we saw with that last fight with Mitrione.
Yeah.
They had a double knockdown and then Mitrione just pounced on him. And
exactly. And it showed that his age is catching up with him, where he wasn't able to recover as quickly as someone like Matt Mitrione was. So for that reason, I've kind of gone for Frank Mir.
Yeah, I've gone Frank Mir round 1 KO then. It's sad to say it, but I just think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So that does it for our predictions then. Any closing notes to say with?
No, fun card. Looking forward to next week's card. Hopefully it's as good as this one was, if not better. And be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm safe to say I'm very happy to see production values go up for the next one.
Oh my god, don't get me started. I think I'm more happy to not have to listen to garage music.
Oh yeah.
In the middle of a fight.
I'm looking forward not to hear the same entrance music for everyone. Cage rage.
Yes.
This is cage rage.
Yes. You cannot escape the cage. Cage rage.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that's basically going to be it. So thank you very much to everyone who's been listening at home, or if you watched the different segments on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. That should be down below. Subscribe on SoundCloud as well if you have not already. So thank you very much for listening. I've been James.
And I've been Livio.
We'll see you guys all for the next episode of the MMA Flashback next week.